boasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well. Oh, man. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program and podcast known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
That well brought all the boys to the yard.
That's a great reference, man. I love that. I was inspired, actually. I was just flipping through YouTube this last week, and a while back, Philip Phillips, who's a pop artist, singer-songwriter, he was on American Idol. And a while back, he released his second album. Didn't have nearly as big a hits on it as his first one did, but my wife started playing it a lot around the house, and we just love it. We listen to it all the time. It's really great songwriting, really thoughtful lyrics. And so during this week, I happened to look back at YouTube, and I saw a clip of when he originally auditioned for American Idol, which I virtually never watch. I bet I've seen about, not including this clip, I bet I've seen about 10 minutes of American Idol across.
I've watched
all
a couple
these
of the
seasons.
clips,
Yeah.
and I had a guy I know, John Fox, was on there for about a minute. That was pretty interesting, so I watched that.
So I watched this Philip Phillips audition clip. It was when he first tried out for the show. And at one point, he hit a note. He's just singing in front of the 4 judges or whatever. At one point, he hit a note and just held it like forever. And I was like, okay, I got to try to go a little longer on the well this week. Just,
it's like when Bugs Bunny is conducting and he holds up the glove and then he takes the hand out of it and stays
That's great. You know, I think that there is an entire generation of people growing up that don't have the appreciation for Bugs Bunny that people of our generation
and the music
does.
in the Bugs Bunny.
Although there is a new Space Jam coming out with LeBron. Remember the Space Jam with Michael Jordan that came out in the 80s, 90s, whenever it was?
do.
There's a new one coming out with like a sequel with LeBron. So maybe younger people will discover
possible. I don't know that I ever
Looney Tunes
watched the whole
characters.
first one.
It's it's cute. It's the animation in it is great.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, welcome to the show. We are thrilled to be here to talk about not only Philip Phillips and Bugs Bunny, but also to talk about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand rolled cigars. It's show number 217. We'll be talking about the cigars of the
We're halfway
year.
to 300.
Guess what? Today. And I haven't even looked yet. We'll look during the show because it's something we'll be talking about. But today is when Cigar Aficionado announces their number 1 cigar of the year.
All right, now it's been driving me a little crazy because I've been ignoring all of those cigars of the year things right now because I've been waiting to see what happens on this show.
So what they did is they have this weird release schedule. They first released like number 1098, and then they did 765 and so on, and finally today they released number 1, and then once they do that, they go back and release like 20 through 10, which is kind of a weird way to do it. But that's
a weird way to do it.
That's what they're doing. So we will look, and we'll both be surprised because I don't know yet what it is. So
awesome.
Looking forward to that, and don't give it away, please, in the show notes until we get there. Also, we will be trying some excellent stuff to taste.
What do we got today?
Well, I want to first let you know that we're brought to you by mycigarshirts.com.
That place is awesome.
Excellent cigar lover shirts, sweatshirts, T-shirts, hoodies, all available on the web. The T-shirts start at under $20, and they're great sort of snarky
You know what I
sayings
like
for cigar lovers.
about that, too, is when you go on to mycigarshirts.com,
Yeah.
it's very easy to navigate.
Well,
There's no questions about it. It's super simple. Now, it's not the most elaborate site, but, man, it's easy to get around.
Well,
and I've been on a few sites recently in the last little while that you can't find stuff. They have so much stuff. It's hard to figure out where they're going.
Well, the thing about online shopping is it's got to be simple because I will give up.
Yeah.
If it's
I'll
easier
just
to
find
go to a
somewhere
store than to drive to the store than to do it online, I'll give up. So, no, they've got it down at mycigarshirts.com, and they've got a lot of great stuff. So they are a supporter of the program, and so we ask you to support them, mycigarshirts.com, because
Cigars.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So on the show today, Ian, we will be trying, I think, some very interesting beers, or they sound interesting anyway. Great Notion Brewing, which you're probably familiar with, out of Portland, Oregon, and Lowercase Brewing from Seattle, Washington, teamed up on a dry-hopped American Pilsner that we'll be trying. So
sounds fun.
I think that Lowercase is kind of known for their Pilsner, and Great Notion's kind of known as being the hoppy.
I've never heard
IPA
of
place.
Lowercase, but I like
right.
that reminds me of that song Ever Since I Was a Lowercase G.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. You're dropping some good song references
can't help
on the
it.
show
I'm
today.
on fire
This
today.
is good. We are both familiar with Anchorage Brewing Company from Anchorage, Alaska. They have a new IPA that I've gotten our hands on here called Chomp the Wicked.
Chomp the Wicked.
It's an IPA with pineapple. So we'll,
interesting.
We'll
Okay.
look forward to trying that. And then from Main and Mill Brewing Company, which I was not familiar
don't know
with.
that one at all.
They are out of Festus, Missouri. And when I lived in St. Louis, Festus is a kind of a suburb of St. Louis. When I lived in St. Louis, Festus was always the place you made jokes about, like that's where the rednecks live, kind of jokes. You know what I mean? But apparently, Festus is the home to a pretty robust craft brewing company called Main and Mill Brewing Company,
Nice.
and we'll be trying their Lil Jafforia Fat Elvis. It's a session
Fat
stout,
Elvis.
and I believe that the reason it's Fat Elvis is because it has peanut butter and banana in the stout.
That sounds awesome.
So we'll be looking forward to that. But yeah, Lil Jafforia. So they managed to get a Lil in there, like as if they were a rapper. And then they went with Fat Elvis.
Fat Elvis.
I'm trying to figure out why. Like if I were, of course I can't rap, but if I could, and I were going to have a recording, plan, I don't think I would call myself Lil something. That seems like, why would you want to be Lil? There's an artist, huge hits out there, Lil Baby. Who would want to be
Lil
known
Baby?
as Lil Baby? Apparently it works for him. He's racking up the hits. But
There's quite a few
anyway.
Lils, isn't there? Lils. No, sorry, not
there's
Littles.
Well, there's
Lils.
Lil Wayne and
Lil Jon. Lil Jon.
Lil Jon. Yeah, I like Lil Jon. He's awesome. He's just like so in your face. You have to love him. Then Ian, we have an interesting spirit today, which I think the bottle is so heavy that it has made Mr. Twirlygig malfunction. Because Mr. Twirlygig has stopped twirlygigging.
I think we finally ran out of batteries on Mr. Twirlygig. You realize how long has Mr. Twirlygig been a part of the show?
A couple years now.
I don't think we've ever put batteries in him.
Well,
I think I may have put batteries in him when I got it.
Either we ran the batteries down, or the weight of today's spirit may have crushed the mechanism inside Mr. Twirlygig. But
that's pretty heavy.
It's a Dripping Springs artisanal gin. And we came by it in a really interesting way because my wife and I love Dripping Springs vodka. I make vodka martinis at home. My wife loves them. And we generally buy Dripping Springs.
That's my vodka go-to choice.
We like Tito's and we like Deep Eddy and several others. But Dripping Springs is the one we usually go for. And my wife just tucked into a corner store because she knew we were low on vodka. And she grabbed that, not realizing it was gin. So I thought, hey, I'll take it. We'll try it out on the show. So Dripping Springs, out of Dripping Springs, Texas, a really, really good distiller of vodka, as you said.
Yeah, their vodka is, and if you're a Tito's fan, that's fine.
Tito's is great. I love
Tito's.
Tito's.
Tito's is fine for mixers and stuff, but no one drinks Tito's straight. Like, it's just meh. Dripping Springs, on the other hand, is fine, neat. It's fine with ice, and it's great mixing.
And I know you don't do vodka martinis because you do gin, but
I like martinis. I don't like big vodka shots.
I understand.
There's a difference.
I knew you were going to go there. That's okay. I'll accept it. But there's really very few things we enjoy more at home than just that ice cold, dirty martini made with Dripping Springs vodka.
Well, you notice that people drink vodka martinis always call them vodka martinis.
Yes.
And people who drink martinis that are made with gin call them martinis.
Yes, I knew I knew you would go there. Thank you. It's all right. It's all right. I can handle it. I realize I'm on the less respected side of that.
That's
curve.
okay. My little brother's going to listen to this, and he's going to cringe a little bit too because he's a very vodka.
He's a very
fan.
vodka martini fan. Okay, well, listen, they're both good. We still are going to do. We haven't done it yet. We still are going to do on this show a vodka martini versus
We've been threatening
gin
that for a
martini
while.
challenge, but we got to get the right bartenders for each one.
We got one of them. We need one more.
I know Chris Morris is in. Yeah, we just need, if anybody knows a great vodka martini maker in the city of Houston, please let them know. Or if they'd be willing to travel to Houston for for the show. So anyway, welcome to show number 217. We will be talking Cigars of the Year. There's a couple of things going on that we got to talk about, including a Chicago cigar store that has gone completely political. So we'll update you on that and tell you what we think about that. And then how drinking changed in 2020. A lot of things changed in 2020 because of the pandemic and everything else that was going on, and drinking certainly changed as well. So we have a really interesting thing we can look at that gives us some facts and statistics about how drinking changed. We'll go over the Cigars of the Year, of course, at least what we have for now, and then craft brewers have picked their 5 favorites of the year for 2020. So I always like it when brewers pick, because these guys get quite a bit of expertise to their palate.
There's always a big difference in popular opinion and inside the industry opinion, and occasionally they coincide.
Yes,
but it's interesting to see.
Sometimes you'll get something from these guys that actually are in the business of crafting beer that will surprise you, the ones that they pick. So that's why that should be an interesting list. We got lists all over the place, so we're pretty
lists
excited.
of lists.
Yeah, we really do. We got to make a list of the lists. So it's been
we even have a list requisition list.
Yeah, that's right. That works, So we have had a pretty interesting week here in Houston weather-wise. We've had what we call winter, which is when it gets into the 40s.
That was a couple days, yeah.
And today's actually beautiful. Sorry to those of you
it
who
is
are
70
snowed
degrees
in.
outside.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And beautiful, sunshiny with... Can you even see a cloud out there?
I don't see one from the window where I'm looking. Yeah, so it's really nice. So it has made, because being really cold outside makes going outdoors to smoke a bit more of a challenge. But I'm assuming that at some point, in some way, you had a chance to smoke something interesting.
So I have a carport kind of thing, and a
shield you from the wind
and
a little bit, and a
under it.
chimney.
Yeah, the
those.
wind kind of blows straight through, but I do have a chimney if you stand close enough to it. But I didn't go there. I did that earlier this week. But I actually went up to Casa this morning and pick out a cigar, and what I picked out was an Onyx.
Oh, I haven't had an Onyx
Nicaragua.
in a long time.
I haven't either, and they had it on the end cap, and they make it easy for me because they put great stuff on the end cap. Sometimes they put the new stuff that's out. Yeah, it's like, and then I know in the next week they're going to have all the top 10s,
the top
on the
ones
new,
from
on
the
end cap. And then, of course, number 1 and number 2 will be sold out because that's what happens every time.
Yes.
But that's okay. I went in there and I saw this Onyx, and it has a busy label on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
the Onyx that I remember had a very simple label.
It's got 3 labels on it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, it's got the Onyx label, and then below that it has another band that says Bold Nicaragua, and then it has a footer below that. Now, this cigar is only 5 inches long, so there's about an inch total of actual tobacco real estate showing.
Oh, yeah, I see this there in the pics.
Yeah, so this is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper, a Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan filler. The appearance dark brown covered with 3 wrappers, shiny silver, kind of busy is what I wrote down. Overall smooth with some veins, very firm feel all the way down. Pre-light sniff, chocolate like brownies, coffee, leather, pepper, and some sweetness cutting through, like kind of a creamy sweetness thing going on. Pre-light draw, I used a clip, effortless draw, sweet taste on the lips, sweet coffee, mocha, hints of barnyard and earth, and a little pepper in the background.
Nice.
This thing smelled great, like that. My mouth was watering just putting it, just trying it. The initial light blast of tangy Nicaraguan pepper. I mean, absolute blast of it is wonderful, though. The strong, sweet coffee and oaky dryness right there off the top. Slightly dank, like fermented hay, a little bit in the background, earth and peppery retro hail. And that's all just the initial blast, the initial light of this cigar. That's
great.
yes.
I mean, you often get that blast of pepper with the Nicaraguan tobacco, but to have that much else going on besides just the pepper blast,
a lot of
is
times
great.
that's the predominant flavor, and you don't get a whole lot else
Until
but
it
this
kind of
had
settles
a lot,
down.
Yeah.
Yep.
By the first third of this, bold is the correct word for this cigar. It is big. This is not Fisher Price, my first cigar.
Yeah.
Do not buy this if you really, really love mild cigars and don't like, fuller flavors. This is a big full flavor cigar. Bold is the name. It's bold yet complex, not overwhelming though, oddly enough. The pepper is big on the palate, yet sweet and creamy instead of biting. It doesn't have that harshness to it that you get, but it's a huge amount of pepper. The coffee and bitter chocolate follows with a woody finish and a hint of leather. It was really, really outstanding. Delicious peppery tingle on a retrohale, solid ash, perfect burn. This thing burned like a laser.
Nice.
Like all the way down. If you guys are watching the pictures, you'll see. The second third of this, oaky dryness becomes more prevalent. Brown, oaky dryness like you get in like a cab, like that dry kind of woody flavor, Let's see. Brownie chocolatiness intertwined with rich earth and pepper abound with each puff. See, I was getting...
You wrote abound in your notes,
yes.
didn't you?
I did.
I love it.
Tangy leather sneaks in the finish, complementing the pepper notes. Retrohale becomes spicier. Solid ash, again, perfect burn. This thing burned like a laser. The last third of the cigar, pepper spice ramps up to an impressive boldness. It was already bold to begin with.
Yeah.
This cigar was huge.
Went from full to full plus.
It went to full to fullerer.
Yeah, all right,
yes.
got it.
I just invented that
More
word.
fullerer.
More fullerer. So it ramped up to that impressive boldness while still retaining the coffee and chocolate sweetness that has been prevalent throughout. Leathery and oaky notes finish the palate with a spicy tingle, solid ash, perfect burn. This might be my favorite cigar of the year. I gave it a 6.5.
Ooh.
At a $9 price range.
So you said it might be your favorite cigar of the year. You just mean since New Year's of what you've tried?
Yes.
Okay, well,
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, all right. So your favorite cigar so far?
So far, yeah.
All right.
And this was going to stay on my radar at a 6.5 at $9 cigar.
$9,
That's if I paid, and it's not small. It's not a big cigar. It's 5 by 50, so it wasn't even a big cigar. And I would have paid $3 more for this and been just fine with the flavor profile.
So, very nice. And you guys, of course, know that the price to quality index that we use here on the show when we're talking about cigars is basically based on 5 being you get what you pay for. Mm-hmm. If it's above a 5, it means you wouldn't have been upset had you paid more. Doesn't mean you want to. It just means you wouldn't have been upset if it had been a $10, $11 cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, I highly recommend this. If you like big, bold cigars, this one knocks it out the park.
I had a pretty bold one this week, too. I smoked the Arturo Fuente Reserva Xtra Viejo Limitada Shark, number 77.
Okay.
That is a mouthful.
That is a lot.
But this is a difficult cigar to find, and I want to mention that it was a gift at Christmas from my mom-in-law. And she wanted to buy me something that she knew that I would really like for Christmas. And so when she got to town, my wife and her went shopping, and my wife took her to Casa. And I believe it was Ken Wen that recommended to her the Arturo Fuente Reserva Xtra Viejo Limitada Shark number 77, because I don't think she would have known.
That's funny, because while I was
own.
in there today, I bought one of the Extra Viejos. Not the Shark Limitada, but I did buy one of the Extra Viejos because they're so good.
Yeah, well, this is really a very unusual cigar. So big thanks to Mom and big thanks to Ken and the folks at Casa, because this one I'll let it out of the bag now. The cigar was fantastic.
Nice.
So the Shark is a very unusual cigar. It's a torpedo with a perfecto tip, but it's round other than the pointed tip at the head. But then as it tapers down to the foot, it becomes completely box pressed into a perfect square.
Interesting.
Now, you've seen, box pressed cigars that'll have just the little rounded tip, but they're still square beyond all the way up to it. Yeah, this one is not. The last inch of the cigar completely round.
So they
but by
box
the time it
pressed
gets to the foot,
only one part of the cigar.
and it seemed to, and it wasn't just like there was a line. It gradually becomes
is
box pressed
that?
as it goes down, which you can see in some of the pictures. So I can only guess that the top level rollers at Fuente are the ones assigned to this cigar, because that has to be harder.
Yeah.
Has to be, especially to get it right. It's blended at Tabacalera Fuente in the Dominican Republic, and these are not impossible to find, but they're not easy to find either. The guys at Casa directed her right to the stash that they had on hand at the time, and I am the lucky recipient. It's wrapped in a dark Maduro wrapper leaf. It smells very woodsy and chocolatey on the pre-light. I used a pair of cigar scissors, snipped the tip off of the stick, and then lit her up. And for the second week in a row, I got complexity and nuance right off the bat. Nice. I was so excited about that last week because so many cigars get that, that initial blast and then they calm down like you were talking about. This one was nuanced and complex from the very, very beginning. It didn't have the early pepper blast, but it did have notes of cocoa and cinnamon and aged wood that kind of kicked in right away. Very, very dense in a good way. The mixture of flavors. The first inch of the cigar was wonderful, did not start off slow. A deep earth aroma on the retrohale and a wonderful citrusy tang on the tongue from almost the beginning of the cigar. By the second third, the wood flavors had become a little more prominent. The chocolate aromas shifted a bit. Either that or I did a better job of identifying them. They became a little more like caramel and a little less like cocoa. And then it had great lime zest notes on the tongue. That continued throughout the whole cigar. Final third, more wood. The earthiness kind of returned from the beginning, and the blend of chocolate and caramel added a really nice sweetness to the finish. I have no idea how you get a cigar that's shaped like this to burn straight, but they did.
Yeah, wow.
It wasn't perfect, but it was very well constructed. Fuente really always does very well constructed cigars. It's a real surprise if you get a Fuente that burns crooked.
Yeah, it's hard to complain about their construction.
Exactly. Clearly, though, they had their A-team working on the Shark, which is pretty cool. Bottom line, I loved this cigar. Thanks, Mom, for the awesome gift, and thank you, Casa de Monte Cristo, for steering her in this direction. It's a $17 cigar.
Woo!
Price to quality. 6.
Wow.
It was that good. It was that good. If it had been a $20 cigar, I would have felt like it lived up to the $20. And I don't say that much with cigars that are, because I generally smoke in the $8 range is what my sort of normal is. So a lot of times when I'm smoking something that's over $10, I'm like, well, this is good. But it's not that much better than what I normally smoke that's more like $8. So this one, however, big time. Highly recommended. Arturo Fuente, Reserva, Xtra Viejo, Limitada, Shark, number 77. If you can find it, buy it. Buy more than one. You will thank me for it. Okay, a lot to do, and we want to get to it in our next segment. We'll start with a little bit of tasting. I want to mention some of the comments we're getting on the show notes, and of course we have. I didn't mention this, but we will have drinking news today. Our drinking news headline: maybe this is where crop circles come from. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we'll be right back.
Love that.
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Check them out online. All kinds of cool clothing accessories for the cigar lover, including, by the way, my favorite mask. For my favorite COVID mask that I've seen, which says, as soon as I take this off, I'm having a cigar. I got one of those. I love wearing that out. People kind of look at me funny, but I'm like, hey, at least I'm wearing a mask.
Right.
Yeah, right. So welcome back to the show. A couple of great pieces of information on the show notes. Bruce Stark, our buddy, who's always here with us. Great to see you, Bruce. Says we need to observe a moment of silence for Mr. Twirlygig. Yeah, he's. I don't know whether we ran the batteries out or not, but like you said,
I think it's a battery thing.
Yeah. Liliana, our tequila expert here on the show, is watching and listening. She says, guys, did you know that Shinerbach makes a seasonal beer with the prickly pear cactus? Now, she is all about cactus. Liliana is an expert at a lot of different things. Two of them are tequila and cacti.
Yes.
And so she's and I am aware. I've had that beer. It's very interesting. It's not my favorite Shiner, but I love getting one every year when it comes out.
It's been popular enough to keep coming back too.
Right.
I've had a few of them. It has an interesting sweetness to it.
And you got to give Shiner credit for doing something that interesting and that kind of distinctly Texas Southwestern. You know, pretty cool. So, all right, Ian. Question for you. When it comes to, let's say you have bought the Cigar Aficionado issue that has the top cigars of the year.
Okay, I have bought the Cigar Aficionado issue that has the top cigars of the year.
And you open it to the article.
Okay.
Do you start reading at 25 and build your suspense as you go up?
I kind of enjoy the anticipation.
Or do you look at number 1 first and then go back and read?
I kind of enjoy the anticipation, so I will generally start from the bottom of the list and go up.
All right, so I'm going to give you the top 10. And we'll start at number 10 and work our way
All
up.
right.
All right? Since you like the anticipation. That's generally the way I do it, but I wonder, is it burying the lead, you know? At number 10, and we can go back and look for details on these later, but at number 10, and this is the first time I think I've seen this brand ever on one of the year-end lists, Henry Clay Warhawk Corona. Are you familiar with the Warhawk?
I did a review on that last year.
Oh, that's right. You sure did. Yeah, and I believe you really liked it. Basically, they say about this, don't let the light-colored band fool you.
True.
It is not a mild cigar.
Right.
All right. So at number 9, a cigar we've talked about a lot. It made one of the other lists we've already gone through. And it's getting a lot of accolades. The Rocky Patel number 6 Corona. That's the one with that big long
I think we
number
both
6 on it.
reviewed that one.
I'm trying to remember if I did or not.
I've
got one sitting in the humidor, and I was trying to save it just in case I hadn't reviewed it. But
might have to go
I
back
haven't
through
gone
your
back
notes.
and look. At number 8, the Oliva Serie V or Serie 5 Melanio Churchill.
Yeah.
That is a great cigar.
That whole Melanio series.
It's been around for a while, and so it's so great to see it still kicking into a top 10 list of cigars of the year. At number 7, I have not had this, the Alec and Bradley Gatekeeper Robusto. Now, this is obviously from Alec Bradley, but it's identified a little differently as Alec and Bradley.
I don't know that one.
I don't either. It's got a sort of a Julius Caesar-looking face on the cigar band, and it looks quite delicious in the photo in Cigar Aficionado. At number 6, the Joya de Nicaragua Numero Uno La Ambassador. I have not had this.
Haven't
cigar.
had that either.
Blue band. I've had a few of the new Hoyas that have come out since Drew Estate took them over, and they've been good. At number 5, the Punch Short de Punch. This is a Cuban cigar. The other cigars we've talked about so far on the list have not been Cubans.
I haven't had
but
this
at number
one.
5, the Punch Short de Punch. At number 4, the La Mission, I never can say this word, L'Altier, L''ATER, L'Altier, 1959. It is a La Mission cigar. It's a My Father, is what it is.
Gotcha.
So this is my father's entry into it. It is, this is what they say. They say, while most serious cigar smokers are well aware of Tatuaje, fewer know that the brand owner Pete Johnson has an experimental arm called Latier, where he produces less traditional, more offbeat products. From that subsidiary came this one, a spinoff from the core Latier line. So it is a Pete Johnson of Tatuaje did the blend, and it was made in the factory at My Father Cigars.
Nice.
So that was number 4. At number 3, the Padron 1964 Anniversary Series Hermoso. And so this is Padron almost always has one in the top 10.
I haven't had that Hermoso.
Okay, we're gonna have to do some cigar buying here, my friend. At number 2, the Fuente Opus X Double Robusto.
Oh yeah,
great cigar.
Opus X,
very
so
expensive. Never disappointing, but very expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah,
never
very
disappointing.
expensive. In fact, I wonder if it says just here in the article. Yeah, well, you know what? It's $17. $17.05 is the listed retail price for it.
Okay.
Because it's a Robusto. So that's that's a way to get an Opus X for under $20.
I was going to say, I always think of Opus X as like 23, 25.
Yes, exactly. And so I may have to put that on the short list to get one of those again. All right, do we have a tinny electronic drum roll?
Let's see here. Tinny electronic drum roll coming right up.
The number one cigar of the year from Cigar Aficionado. For the second time in the last 3 years, the number one spot goes to E.P. Carrillo.
Wow.
The E.P. Carrillo Pledge Prequel, which you and I both had because our buddy Alan Denny brought us one.
Great cigar.
Yeah, so you remember he brought some cigars when we went to see Bill Burr.
Yeah.
So during lockdown, one of the venues here in Houston that has a big outdoor space, they sectioned it off, and you could buy like a section.
A section, yes.
Right. You had to buy the whole
would hold
section.
6 people.
Yeah, you had to buy the whole section. So if you were going by yourself, you were paying for 6 tickets, basically. So we got together, Ian and his wife, Alan Denny and his wife, and my wife and I, we all went. We split the ticket price. And so we were outdoors waiting for Bill Burr to come on, and Alan passes out the E.P. Carrillo Pledge Prequel cigars. It was a little Robusto. And, man, I enjoyed that cigar.
That's just so great. And that's the one that if the band is signed, you win the
Oh,
humidor.
right. That's right.
Yeah,
and none of ours were signed. We all
Unfortunately.
we all checked. They say at first glance it looks just kind of like another, dark box press cigar fighting for shelf space at your local retailer. But there's a story behind this that started, they say, in 2014 when Ernesto Perez Carrillo released another brand called La Historia.
Yeah.
And it was a tribute to his family, one of the finest cigars he'd released up to that point. One particular size came very close to making Cigar of the Year, was ranked the number 2 smoke of 2014. At that time, they did not know at Cigar Aficionado that La Historia was part 1 in what came to be a trilogy. Part 2 was the Encore, which did make number 1 2 years ago. And it was the Encore Majestic in 2018. It was named the Cigar of the Year. So Pledge went on sale in September. May have slipped through the cracks for some people because of the pandemic and what have you. But it won't slip through the cracks now.
No.
It'll just be
You won't be able
difficult
to find them,
one. Yeah. But congratulations to the folks at E.P. Carrillo who really make great cigars. I mean, they really do. But congratulations to them for landing the number 1 spot. So we can go back and talk about these if you want. But I thought we should go through the list. I was afraid once I pulled the list up, and boom, I saw what it was. So I was like, okay, how am I going to keep this quiet for the rest of the show? So I figured might as well. So Ian, a lot of these we have tried, several that we haven't, so some things to put on the list. And I suspect that a lot of people do that when the list comes out, they go, oh, I haven't tried that one and that one and that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can find those. So I'm real interested in this.
I find it encouraging on the list that the Oliva Melanio made it on there. The Melanio Churchill made it on there because that is not a new cigar.
No, it's not.
But it's a great cigar. That whole Melanio line, I love the Melanio Maduros as well. They're so good. And the Serie V, in the first place, is a great cigar.
You know what I find interesting is for years, when I first started reading Cigar Aficionado, I would look at their listings, and it used to actually kind of like frustrate me because the top cigars were all Cuban. So it's like, well, that's great, but I can't get those unless I have some sort of special hookup, and then you don't even know if they're real and all of that, and it's become obviously much more difficult to get them again with the latest government restrictions. But only 1 cigar out of the top 10 was Cuban this year.
Well, I think so. We kind of went through this with beer. Remember when you talk to people in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah.
You talk about beer, and they're like, the only good beer you can get is in Europe and Germany especially.
Right. Yeah.
That's not true.
Right.
I mean,
especially not true now. But
American craft beer has revolutionized the entire world.
And in fact, Europe is now emulating American craft brewers. Yes.
And it's awesome, and there's no snideness to that.
No,
That's incredibly cool. We've taken a traditional
European
arena where a lot of the European beers were all very stuck in tradition. This is what we make. This is how we make it. This is what we always do, and this is the way it's always been done. And we've broken that mold and innovated and forced the entire industry to do it. And I think that's amazing. I think that's happening in cigars because you go back 15 years ago. What are the best cigars? Cubans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cubans make great cigars. They also make bad cigars.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of counterfeits out there. So it's
Yes.
hard to tell what's what.
It is.
But at the same time, I think the industry is now having enough of a bloom, enough of a push, enough of a renaissance to where you're going to have a hard time buying bad cigars if you have any idea what you're looking for.
And if you don't, by the way, ask the guys at the shop.
Yeah.
You know, because they will help you. Now, I realize that sometimes when you go online, like if you go on Cigars International, you would believe that every single cigar they sell is the greatest cigar ever from the
Yes,
write-ups.
yes.
So you may have to look a little further, read some reviews, go on Half Wheel, see if they've reviewed it, or look back at our shows, see if we had one.
Here's the difference. When you're dealing with Cigars International, and this is not a knock against them by any means, when you're dealing with someone who's just in the industry for selling cigars, okay, every cigar is amazing.
Yeah.
And golden and fantastic and worth you buying. When you go into a shop and you talk to the proprietor at that shop, they're not trying to just sell you a cigar. They want you to come back and buy more cigars.
They want you to be a
so
regular
they want to
customer.
make sure that they
Yes.
help you get
100%
cigars that match what you want to do. So if you don't know anything about it, that's the place to go.
Look at Ken Wen at Casa, who recommended to my mother-in-law.
Yes.
Who he could have sold her anything, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
he could have, there's $30 David offs.
Right. Right. Instead, he recommended something where she gave it to me, and I went, "Holy cow, this
Yes.
is great!"
Yes.
And he knew that I would know where she got it.
Yes.
And that I would be like, they totally steered her right, And so you're absolutely right. And I'm a repeat customer of theirs,
Yes.
as are you. So that is one of the greatest things about brick and mortar cigar shops. And Ian, I'm excited for us to get to the point during the year sometime here where you and I can get the COVID vaccine, so we can get to the place where we can go back and
do
be in
shows.
more
Yes,
shops and talk to more of the
Yes.
proprietors and hear them talk about, because to me it's awesome hearing them talk about what they do. When we were in Honduras, there were so many cigar shop proprietors that were there with us on that trip,
Yes.
and it was so much fun listening to them talk about their shops and what they sell and what they like to hit people to.
And all shops have personalities too. Like you walk in, and certain shops have a very more serious, austere personality. Some shops have a little more fun and jovial personality. One of the guys we went there with owns Cigar Town out on the west side of Houston, and
That's
his
right.
shop is funny because there's just kind of a sense of humor running through the shop at all time. Alan's shop is a little bit like that. Casa de Monte Cristo is a little more friendly, and everyone wants to talk about sports,
Right.
and stuff like that. Every shop has their own.
Stogies has that vibe of there's some like important business deals going down over in the
definitely
corner,
has that business deal vibe going on in there.
I mean, so it's awfully, and this brings me to something we'll talk about in the next segment. But a Chicago cigar store has gone way political, and I have a problem with it. I'm not going to say I'm not saying I have a problem with their stance. I have a problem with them doing it at all, and so we'll talk about that as we get into the next segment, and we'll do our "we got to talk about it" segment.
I'm just pouring this beer, and it smells good.
Well, yeah, it sounded great when you opened it. I know crappy beers can sound good when you open them too, but
this is the Great Notion and Lowercase Brewing collaboration, dry hopped American Pilsner with Citra, Vic Secret, and Belma hops.
So that's, first of all, Vic Secret, much more common in IPAs. Well, a lot of hops are, but you don't hear about a lot of Pilsners being hopped with this exotic an array of hops.
Yeah, I mean with Citra especially, you think very much the
Very
IPA
much IPA
and juicy IPAs
and Vic
especially.
Secret for sure as well. But any other interesting info on the can?
It smells so good. It says the natural result when you collide Great Notion's passion for hops with Lowercase's love for lager. Welcome to Georgetown, Roomy. Brewed and canned by the Lowercase Brewing Company.
Ian.
Is it as good as it? I mean, I got that silent stare.
You got to taste this beer.
Is this? Oh, that's
Oh yeah.
Oh, it keeps doing stuff.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
And it's like tangerine on the end.
Right. So it's got a little bit of citrus and floral the way an IPA does, but it doesn't have any of the sort of hop bitter that you would expect from an IPA with the same kind of hop action going on.
This is what you know. Have you ever been into a really, really awesome green apple? That crispness that you get from that's what this finishes with.
It reminds me a
sweet.
little bit of, it doesn't have a traditional grapefruit taste, but just yesterday, my wife had picked up a grapefruit at the store that was just like perfect. And so she peeled it for me because I hate peeling grapefruits, and she's awesome, and left the peeled grapefruit sitting in a bowl for me. So I come out and get it, and I start peeling away even the membrane of each individual slice and putting just the pulp, chunks of the pulp, right, into another bowl. And then I salted it and just picked them up and ate it. And it tastes like grapefruit, but it's so sweet that way without any of the more sort of like sour elements of the skin. And I get a little bit of that, actually, maybe because I just had it. But I get a little bit of that.
I've never tried that with a grapefruit. I will have to try that at some point.
The key is salt.
The lingering finish on this it is like tangerine, tart tangerine.
Totally is. This is a very, very pleasant. And almost, if you had told me this was an ale, I probably would have believed you.
I want to be at a pub that serves this on tap.
Oh, how great would that be?
Like that, just to me, would be amazing in a big.
So I am assuming this was a limited release because usually the collaborations are. But boy, is it good. Now, if you are in the Oregon and Washington area, you got to find some of this, and you may be able to find it other places too. But Great Notion Brewing, Lowercase Brewing. I think this is the first time we've had anything from Lowercase. But it's interesting how they pointed out on the label that Lowercase has a passion for Pilsners.
The Pilsners, yes.
And Great Notion has a passion for, crazy hop stuff. And so it's a really good collaboration, I have to say. If that was something that I could find on the regular, I would buy that all the time.
If that came out anywhere close to here, I would be making space for it in my kegerator. Like I would be buying a Slim.
I like it. All right, I tell you what, let's do. Let's enjoy a little more of this beer. Let's take a break. We're going to come back. We have more beers to taste. We have something that we got to talk about, which is this Chicago cigar store political thing. And then before the show's over, we'll go back over this list of cigars, and maybe you and I should pick out what one we're targeting for our next cigar purchase.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. So
yeah, it's interesting because we've already had number one.
Yeah. And so, by the way, coming out in the next week, Cigar Aficionado will release their list from 20 to 10. That was only the top 10 because that's the way they do it. So we'll bring that to you when we get it as well. You are listening to Smokin' and Toastin', all about craft beer, fine cigars, and great spirits. And we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Show number 217. We're talking about the cigars of the year and trying some artisan gin. But before we get to that, Ian, I love Anchorage Brewing. They are one of the most experimental IPA breweries out there. And they always have these wicked, crazy artist designs on their cans.
Chomp the Wicked is like the gnarliest wolf ever.
Yeah, does he have multiple eyes?
Yeah,
4 eyes there. So, and it's not because he's wearing glasses. He looks pretty mean and vicious, but it's an IPA with pineapple.
This will give you nightmares from the outside.
Yeah. But they always have like crazy looking animals like that wolf, or they have like skeleton, macabre-looking things on their cans, but it's always very intricate art. It's really a kind of a way that they, I guess, separate themselves from the rest of the world in terms of
I don't know that I've
packaging.
ever had a beer from Anchorage that was less than outstanding.
Yeah, we've had a number of them on the show, mostly IPAs, although we've had, if you remember, we had their that one ale with Brettanomyces, remember, recently from those guys, and it was just outstanding. So yeah, pretty cool.
I stuck
pretty
my
cool
finger
brewery.
in that one. I'm going to keep that one.
I hope it wasn't a fly.
There was some sort of little floaty in there. I think it came out of the beer. I hope.
Okay, let's hope so. So this is a
I'm not squeamish about that.
This is an IPA with pineapple, and these guys are from Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You can smell the pineapple right off.
Oh, you
the top
really
of
can.
That.
It's very prominent on the nose. You're going to take the first sip of this, so I'll let you talk while I drink.
All right. Yeah, this is basically pineapple juice.
It's a pineapple bomb, isn't it?
Yes, this is basically, and the mouthfeel is just huge.
Yeah, it's definitely an IPA, but the pineapple almost overrules the hops.
So, for those of you who don't know what I mean by mouthfeel, mouthfeel is kind of exactly what it says, but I want you to think of like a thin mouthfeel of being like water.
Right. Water's, yeah.
Water as a basis for a thin mouthfeel.
Yeah, a thicker
some things
mouthfeel
can
would
be thinner. There's whiskeys that have a little bit thinner kind of mouthfeel than water. And then think of a real heavy mouthfeel more like milk.
Right, or hot chocolate. Or
hot chocolate, milk-based kind of thing. This is closer to the hot chocolate side of mouthfeel.
Now, it doesn't taste like chocolate at all.
Nothing like it. This is, or like high pulp orange juice. This has very much that kind of mouthfeel to it.
It's just sort of a thickness, the viscosity of the liquid.
Yes.
I think this is delicious. Again, this is in a category that I'm a fan of already, being a sort of a juicy IPA.
Do they call this? They call it an India Pale Ale with pineapple.
Yeah.
It looks like a hazy IPA.
It does. It's got, and a lot of the IPAs that Anchorage does are hazies. So
I'm going to give props. They have art by Wolf Skull Jack on here. So whoever Wolf Skull Jack is, that's a pretty badass piece
I
of
bet
art.
if we Googled him, we'd find some pretty
I
cool
bet we
stuff on the web. That I think it's spectacular, Ian. This is
India Pale Ale with pineapple, DHH with Strata and Sabro, 6.4%.
Now, to the best of my knowledge, almost all of the Anchorage beers that we've had on this show have been their limited releases, and they do new IPAs all the time. And so I'm guessing that this is one that you may have to hop on immediately to try to find.
This one's interesting. I like it enough. This wouldn't be my first go-to choice, but if you like big pineapple, big hazy, and you like it to be the consistency of orange juice, like high pulp orange juice, then you're going to love this beer.
Yeah, this is right kind of in the pocket for me. This is right where I like my IPAs to go, is with this kind of taste and flavor. It's not the only kind that I like, but this is kind of a favorite spot for me.
Yeah.
And I dig it.
This is definitely a taste that keeps on tasting. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't go away in your mouth for a while.
You're right about that. We're going to be tasting this for a while. I tell you what, in the next segment, then, we will change up. And instead of tasting a beer, we will taste some gin, and I'm excited about that. So artisanal gin from Dripping Springs in our next segment. Plus, it very soon will be time for drinking news, and in our next segment, we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the Chicago cigar store that's gone political and why I think it's a terrible idea. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. We are so thrilled that you have joined us for this little podcast, videocast, and ongoing extravaganza that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Check them out on the web. They are a sponsor of the show, and we love them, and they are offering some really cool products at really decent prices. You ever go on one of those T-shirt sites, and you're like, oh, I love that shirt. I'm thinking about getting one of the, oh, it's $39.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're not that way. Shirts start at under $20.
And they're super comfy cotton.
Yeah, and I don't mind paying more for like a sweatshirt or something. But see, when you go into the T-shirt and it's like, that doesn't work. So,
well,
so
you gotta
you'll
be
love these
be
guys.
afraid of T-shirts that are $9. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to wash them a few times. They're going to get weird.
Oh, I agree.
Most of the time.
In my career, I worked for a number of radio stations, and we would buy the giveaway T-shirts, to hand out
the ones
with our
that
logo
go
on.
through the T-shirt gun.
Yeah, exactly. You hand them out with your logo on them. Those T-shirts are good for exactly 3 washes, and then they're dead. They're absolutely dead. But these guys are not like that. They've got high-quality stuff, soft cotton, and great snarky cigar sayings on them, too, which is kind of fun.
I love that.
Yeah. So welcome back to the show. Ian, I want to talk about something here. I saw an article that really disturbed me this week, and I'm going to
pour some vodka while you're talking about that.
Actually, why don't you pour some gin?
Sorry, gin. It says Dripping Springs. I'm not used to that.
This is exactly what happened to my wife when she bought it. She thought she was buying a bottle of Dripping Springs vodka, and it turns out it's artisanal gin. So we'll get to that. This has been an incredibly political week in the United States of America. In fact, the last year has been an incredibly political year. We got a glimpse of how divided the country is and what people are, how seriously people are taking their own points of view. And we've always tried on this show to not get into the political thing at all. And there's a reason for that. I mean, I have some very strong political opinions, and I'm sure that you do too.
I can smell them from here.
Yeah, but I don't think that a show that's about cigars and spirits, I don't think that's what this show is about. I don't think it's why people come to this show. People don't care what I think about politics.
If you want to hear political opinions, there's tons of shows that are out there for that.
Exactly. And they'll do a much better job of expressing whatever viewpoint that is than I would.
We even talked about it. We don't necessarily run away from political opinions, but it's just not a subject for the show. It's not something that this show is designed for.
So when I saw that there's a business owner in Elmhurst, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, has now put up a sign on his cigar store, and it says, "Biden voters keep out." Now, I'm not going to comment as to the politics of it. It could just as easily have been a sign that said, "Trump voters keep out." I would have the same issue with it. And here's my issue. One of the I almost want to use the word sacred. One of the sacred things I want to say about going to a cigar store and a cigar lounge.
I know where this is going.
Is being able to sit in that room with other guys who are smoking cigars who have completely different jobs, viewpoints on life,
irregardless
political
of
views,
any of those things.
But
Social.
you know what they all enjoy? They all enjoy cigars. And there's again, I don't want to use too loaded of words here. There's a brotherhood of that. When I'm sitting at, Allen's shop down in Galveston, or at, Casa de Monte Cristo, or when I've been in some of the fine cigar shops and lounges I've been able to visit across the country, I'm not there to talk politics with people. I'm there to, kind of connect with them. And we're all going to have different opinions.
Yep.
I bet if you went into Casa de Monte Cristo right now and did a little straw poll, the people who are sitting there smoking cigars would be evenly divided in which political party they are supportive of. None of that is stopping them from enjoying hanging out with each other and talking and chatting and talking about cigars and talking about sports and whatever else that they may have in common. It isn't about that. So that's why I have a problem with this cigar store in Chicago.
Let me be honest.
It's the Elmhurst Cigar House.
Let me be honest. No matter what side of the fence that's on, that's a cigar store that I would stop going to.
Right.
Personally, I'm not recommending anyone else. You do what you got to do. But to me, that's offensive in a way that you're allowed to have, and this guy's allowed to do that.
Yeah,
you're allowed to have
I
any opinion you want.
do support his right to
and
say.
I'm not pandering here.
Yeah.
I am just telling you that if you're going to come out and be the guy that excludes someone because they don't think like you,
right,
and especially at a cigar shop,
exactly,
then I don't want to be the guy that hangs out at that shop.
And I don't want to put money in your pocket, even if the candidate you support is the one I support.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Biden, but I still wouldn't go to that shop.
Well,
because that to me, of course, I'm not really a fan of Trump either. But
so here's the thing.
I'm less of a fan of Biden overall. policy-wise, but that just is so. It just hits me in the wrong spot, no matter what kind of political side you have.
And see, I'm on the other side of that coin, but my reaction to it is exactly the same as yours. And it would be exactly the same if his sign said Trump voters keep
I'm going
out.
to say it. It's icky.
It's icky. I think it's asinine.
Yeah.
I think because it goes against this brotherhood that I mentioned that cigar lovers seem to be able to have. To me, that's one of the things about it that's magical. We've talked about that on the show before. You know, it's not when you're enjoying a cigar with someone, it's not about all that other stuff. It's not about all that nonsense that keeps people separated. It's about you just enjoying being able to hang out and enjoy this cigar with someone. And to me, that is what the cigar lounge is built on.
I mean, are you going to be the guy who fires up a cigar and someone else has a cigar next to you and you go, hey, man, before I ask you what cigar you're smoking, because I'm curious, because I'm also a cigar smoker and I like to chat about cigars, what political party are you affiliated with?
Right. Think how stupid that is. So
it's just wrong. And like I said, it's icky. It's weird.
So I will not.
I don't want to be a part of it.
I will not be smoking anytime soon or non-soon at the Elmhurst Cigar House in Chicago because I think there's so few areas where we can be inclusive now. Let's keep cigars as a part of that.
Yeah, let's stop driving that wedge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. All right, it's time to talk gin, Ian.
Have you tried it?
I have not.
I'm gonna sit here and say inane things while you try this gin.
I was enjoying more of the Chomp the Wicked and hadn't tried the gin
let
yet.
me tell you something. In the way that you enjoyed Chomp the Wicked, this actually shares a lot of those flavors.
Interesting.
And it is incredibly delicious in the way that Dripping Springs vodka is. It's got a little
interesting.
It's got a little inherent sweetness to it.
I love it on the nose.
That we're drinking this gin neat right now, and it's got this inherent sweetness and fruitiness.
Wow.
And tanginess.
Wow.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you that is one of the best gins I've ever had neat.
This is not your traditional like super juniper forward gin. This is not Tanqueray.
Right, and it's not
Hendrix. It's not
as much as
and
I
it's
like,
not trying to be.
As much as I like Hendrix gin for what it is, and as delicious as those flavors are, this to me is I don't know. It's a little more palatable, maybe.
This is a little fruit
when you're going
cocktail of a
gin. It's more fruity, more fruit, less juniper.
It has that little pine coney, juniper-y thing.
Oh, yeah, it is a gin. There's no question about that.
It has that gin thing going on. You know, it's funny.
Yeah?
Because I like gin.
I know you do.
And I like gin to make a martini out of.
Right.
Which,
you've mentioned this.
In a lot of respects, is just a big shot of gin, and that's okay.
Right.
So
maybe
it happens.
With some... You have a chilled shaker there, my friend.
That I happen to have.
Yeah.
What it takes.
And you have ice. I can hear it.
To make a martini.
Oh, dude.
Right here. It's not in my pocket. It's in my cooler next to me. It would be weird in my pocket. It'd be a little melty.
That is awesome, actually.
You may be wondering to yourself, do you always walk around with a martini kit?
I just asked myself, Cruze, does Ian always walk around with a martini kit?
Let me tell you something about it. You're never going to be sad if you're walking around with a martini kit. But don't keep the ice in your pocket because that gets awkward.
Yeah, yes, it does. So this is very interesting. I like this gin a lot. And gin is not, my first or second or third favorite spirit. It's one that I think is a little more of an acquired taste. At least I look at it that way. But this is quite good. Now, are you going to shake or stir?
We're going to shake.
Okay. I remember when we were doing the shows on Skype at the beginning of the pandemic. I remember you sitting at your house shaking up martinis, and I thought, he's just having way more fun than I am.
I have a job for you.
You brought olives, my man.
Well, you can't have a proper martini kit.
Yeah.
Without a little bit of olives. We're going to dirty this up just a touch.
So this is interesting to me because you put your olive juice in the glass, or in our case, the cup.
Would you
rather
spear
than,
an
rather
olive
than
on
shaking
each one of those, please, and just set it in the cups? Because this is going to take a little bit of doing to make sure that this martini is in proper martini thing. Now, I don't have that perfect round agitation thing that Chris Morris. His is like a science.
Well, you may remember Chris. Chris was the guy who told us that James Bond ruined martinis for people because they all did shaking instead of stirred, and he is a fan of stirred. And I have since gone to stirring my vodka martinis.
Yes.
And I feel like it makes them better.
Yes, I agree. So guess what we're going to do after we try this shaken martini?
What?
We're going to try a stirred one. See how frosty that's getting right now? That's when you know you're getting where you need to go. When you
I thought there were some extra olives floating in here.
When you get the frost on the glass or on the mixer.
Which is way cooler than frost on the pumpkin.
Yes.
I don't know why I even said that. It's 70 degrees.
My mom always said that when it was, like a little bit
frost on the pumpkin,
dew out there.
Yep. All right, Ian, that looks absolutely delicious. I have to tell you.
It just keeps coming out of there.
All right, I've already passed this one.
Yeah, pass it on
to Adam. So here we go. All right, so now the difference in this from when we had it neat, other than a little bit of olive juice in the olive, is going to be how much colder this is.
Yes.
Right?
And there's got dilution. A little water dilution in there.
Yeah, sure. So, it smells great.
That might be one of my absolute favorite martinis now.
That is so drinkable, Ian.
Right now.
So
like favorite
drinkable.
Martinis.
Wow. Dripping Springs.
Good job.
Wow. Now, this lets me know we've got to have those people on the show.
Yes.
They're not, that many hours away from us. Maybe we can convince them to come in and talk to us about, why their vodka's so good, first of all. Because think about how hard it is. Let's talk about the vodka for a minute. Think about how hard it is to stand out in the vodka field right now. I mean, Tito's came along, and I love Tito's vodka. Tito's came along at a point in time when there were not a lot of what you would consider to be craft vodkas out there, and they kind of became if you weren't going to buy one of the more traditional brands, Tito's was kind of the cooler thing to buy, and the vodka was very good. But by the time Dripping Springs came onto the scene, there were craft vodkas everywhere.
Yes.
So how do you stand out
in
that world, right?
Damn good.
Yeah.
Vodkas, and it's hard because a lot of the distilleries in general are making the vodka and the gin to start off with, because you can't make aged whiskey to start with. We should probably when we come back in our next segment, try this one.
Okay, we'll do that, and also in our next segment, I think we have one more beer to try too. And
we can make that happen.
That is the Lil Jafria Fat Elvis. Yeah, we got some time in this segment, Ian, if you want to go there.
Oh, I thought our clock was running.
I don't know. Either that or I didn't start mine. Did that one restart? I'm showing 14. Yeah, 14. Okay, so we got time.
We got time. So I'm working off the wrong clock.
Let's do this bad boy.
So we're going to do this. So the notes on this, it has a sweetness. The Dripping Spring sweetness is so good.
And this softens the juniper even more.
Yeah.
But you still get a little bit of that citrusiness. Yeah. Is citrusiness a word?
Citrusiness is a word now.
It's a word
now. We have just made it a word. So
look
I'm
how
making
much more fun it is
the
to
same
say
martini, but this is a stirred martini. Now I stirred it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm very curious
for what I think
is
a Chris Morris appropriate amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Now I will say this: it doesn't look as hazy. It looks a little more clear.
No, it's much more clear, and you notice it comes out a little slower even, because it's not as diluted either.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to me to see if I can
And my formula on both of these
difference.
is a touch of olive juice in the glass, one olive in each one. You can do more olives, obviously, if you're doing more gin.
So here's my first reaction, is that the stirred is a little more flavorful.
Yeah.
And the shaken is a little more smooth. In other words, you could almost like gulp it down.
Yeah.
The stirred is a little more I want to sip it a little more. Ian, that's spectacular.
So the shaken martini, where it's a little more the water is melted, it's a little more diluted. It's very cold, and cold always represses and hides some of the warmer and rounder flavors.
Correct.
So when I drink this, it tastes a little more juniper, a little more of that pine coney kind of thing that you get, and there's still a little sweetness to it. But this has a bigger, rounder mouthfeel, and all that sweetness and flavor and the fruitiness comes through on it.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. Now, I know I take a lot of crap from you about this, but I am generally a vodka martini person. I simply like the taste. And I like dirty martinis. I like them very dirty. And
I only made these medium dirty.
Yeah, these are about medium dirty. But I just simply like the taste better. Now, vodka, as we know, is
neutral.
Yeah, it's neutral.
Very
It's
neutral.
got almost no taste to it at all, just a little bit. And this is the first time I've had a gin martini that I would put, being a vodka martini guy, on the same. Like, I like this just as much as a vodka martini. Normally, when I have a gin martini, I'll be like, yeah, that's good, but I like the vodka martini better. Lets me taste the olive juice a little better. I don't have to deal with juniper. And again, juniper's not a bad thing. It's just if you're in the mood for it. That's how it is with me. But as a guy that likes that prefers gin martinis, you are also loving this.
Well, let me explain. So since Chris came on the show and showed us the difference between the shaken and stirred, I have actually moved towards stirred.
I have with
martinis.
my vodka martinis as well.
I still enjoy a shaken martini. It's fine. It's good. It's nice. And this martini in particular. But I will tell you that if I'm going to do vodka, I think I like the shaken. And I like it dirty. I like it so dirty that it looks like bilge water. I
had a friend when I lived in Philadelphia that his wife loved dirty martinis, and when we would go out for drinks, she would always say to the bartender, I want a vodka martini so dirty that there's still lipstick on the glass. That was her saying.
Make it nasty.
Yeah, she wants a filthy dirty martini.
And the reason I went with this, and I did both of these in a not so dirty way. I just did a splash of the olive juice, just didn't make it that dirty, medium dirty, is because I really wanted to taste more of the vodka, or not vodka, but the gin in this.
Right.
And I didn't want to mask it too much. Now, this right here, especially, you taste even more of the olive and the dirtiness in it versus the cold one, because again, that olive juice, that warm olive flavor doesn't cut through as much when it's that cold and that diluted. This didn't get quite as cold, didn't get quite as diluted, so you're getting more of those rounder.
The flavors are a little more full.
And it feels to me like the flavors blended better in here.
I would agree. Well, fascinating stuff. I have also found that I'm enjoying my martinis made with vodka more since I've started stirring them. So thanks again to Chris Morris for setting us on the right path there. Although, like you said, I still enjoy a shaken martini every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no. Okay, so quick James Bond question, since we are on the subject of shaken, not stirred. Ooh, nice. Weigh in on the current James Bond. Do you like him? Daniel Craig. Do you like him as James Bond? Or because there was a mixed reaction at first, but I'll go ahead and
Daniel
tell you.
Craig, I think, is awesome.
I love him as James Bond.
I think he's awesome.
Great.
I think so. I have some mixed feelings about some of the James Bond. Pierce Brosnan looked perfect.
I thought Pierce Brosnan made a
gave him-
great James Bond, and the scripts were terrible.
They gave him terrible scripts.
Yes.
They just took all the James Bond out of him. And I had an issue with that. I love Sean Connery.
Of course.
Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Then there was that one guy that was in the one.
Timothy Dalton.
Not good.
Yeah, I
Not
agree.
a good James
so,
Bond.
the first Bond movies I saw, just because of how old I was when I started being able to see movies, it was Roger Moore. So Roger Moore was kind of like James Bond to me.
Like you got that.
And then when I was able to go back and watch some of the Sean Connery stuff, I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, he was awesome. But I like Daniel Craig. Now, the current, stuff on the internet is suggesting that Idris Elba could be the next James Bond.
That'd be interesting. I like that guy.
I would love that because
I mean, he's so charismatic.
He's a great actor. He's so suave and smooth.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that's
and
the
you
way
know
they
what? It's okay that they have updated and made it feel different.
Go. Yes.
And Daniel Craig is a different James Bond than any of them
but
because
he's
he's also in a different time.
So look at that. We agree on this. How crazy is that?
Weird.
We actually agree. All right. Well, cheers. Thank you for making these, and thank you for traveling with a martini kit.
Well, you don't?
No, and
I just thought I pulled mine out before you pulled yours out.
This is something I've got to address. This is a thing. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back. We have one more beer to try, and guess what, kids? Next segment, it's time for drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
In the next segment, we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This is Smoking and Toasting. We are the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I watched a great old movie. My wife always tries to get me to watch old movies. I've never been a huge fan of older movies, and she loves them. So she keeps trying to introduce me to really good ones to win me over. And she had me watch a movie called 12 Angry Men. Oh, dude.
I remember that.
It was incredible. It's a black and white movie. It's got some amazing people in it, but the dialogue, the storytelling. Anyway, there's your recommendation for the week. Go watch 12 Angry Men. Totally.
I do remember that.
Worth your hour and 45. It's basically about the guys on a jury, and they get sent into the jury room to decide whether somebody's guilty or not. Man, it's like this movie that was made all those years ago. That feels like it was made yesterday based on what's happening in the room and stuff. Great stuff. I don't know why I went there, but I think it's because I said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Sorry, it's the gin talking. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. We are the program that's all about cigars of the year this week. And apparently Gin Martinis. So thank you, Ian, for being Mr. Gin Martini.
You know what I hated about that martini?
What's that?
Nothing.
I totally.
I don't know about you, but I drank all of my stirred one already. So.
Yeah, well, I'm working on the shaken one now. So
when you take the toothpick out of the olive becomes the prize at the end of the drink.
I like looking at it that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Cracker Jacks.
That's right. You
get the prize early.
You get to the bottom of the drink, you're like, oh.
We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Check them out on the web. It's MyCigarShirts.com because cigars. Yes. Ian, I think it's about that time.
Time for what, sir?
It's time for drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. So grab a cup while we gather round. Saddle up while we drink 'em down. Got a story and I swear it's true. So now it's time for drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. I asked about his absent arm. He said, I had to take my gator to the vet. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all. Was that Uncle Otis?
No.
That sounded like him.
That was my buddy Steve.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so just a reminder for you, especially if you're new to the program, that Drinking News is not necessarily always stories about drinking, although sometimes, but it is always stories that are probably most enjoyable to hear when you are drinking.
All right, to preface this, Bruce has a comment about martinis. He says they're kind of like women's breasts. 1 is not quite enough, and 3 is one too many. But 2 is just perfect.
That's a good. And we've had 2, so look, we're right in the zone. Thank you, Bruce. Ian, I know you love hearing these words when it comes to drinking news. A Florida man.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
It really is better if you're drinking when you hear drinking news. A Florida man admittedly had, quote, maybe a little too much to drink when caught on a dash camera riding a lawnmower on the highway.
Yeah.
That's according to the Marion County Sheriff's Office in Florida. Deputies say they caught Paul Burke of Fort McCoy, Florida, driving the riding lawnmower in the middle of Highway 316 earlier this month. Video provided by the department shows Burke slurring his words and admitting that he had been drinking, although he never actually quantifies exactly how much he had. First, he says he had a couple, but when asked again by the deputy, he replies, "I'm not going to lie to you," and later says, "I have had maybe a little too much to drink tonight." The best part, though, they asked him where he was going,
Where is
and he said he was going home. And they said, "Where are you coming from?" And he said, "Home." So I'm going to go along with the fact that, yeah, he probably, and I don't know, Adam, have we got the photo up? This is the photo from Mr. Burke.
Oh, brilliant.
He wanted to know if he could just be issued a ticket and be on his way. But they wanted him to do these exercises like walking in a straight line and sobriety test exercises. And he said, "No, sir, just take me to jail." He was arrested on a DUI charge.
See, now, what he should have said is, "Sir, if I could walk, I wouldn't be driving a lawnmower."
So it reminds me of a story that I was told by somebody who has been involved in the country music scene for a long time and told me about the story of the late George Jones, the country music singer, who had, during his lifetime, a pretty long and protracted battle with alcohol.
Yes.
And it's pretty well documented. And George Jones and Tammy Wynette, the first lady of country music, were married for many years. And during this one stretch of time that this story takes place, a true story, Tammy has told this story, Tammy Wynette has told the story about trying to help George dry out. And so one of the things they did is they lived in this house that was out in the country. And I believe it was, by the way, in Florida.
Nice.
And they took all the alcohol out of the house. And Tammy had to leave to go on tour. And so they decided that they would take all of the vehicles away from the house so that George would not be able to get into a car and drive to a bar or a liquor store so that he would finish drying out. And apparently, when Tammy landed whatever city she was about to play a concert in and called whoever their assistant was, they reported that they'd gone into the house and George was missing, and he was found later riding a lawnmower back from the bar where he had spent most of the day. So apparently a true story. The late George, country legend, the late George Jones.
Man.
And here's,
What a badass,
here's
though.
to you. So, so this guy Burke is not the first to use the riding lawnmower for transportation. He's just the latest.
He's just the latest.
And
you know,
there's your drinking
this
news.
shaken martini that I made,
Yeah,
that's only slightly dirty.
yeah.
Once it warms up, you get a lot of the fruity flavors right down the middle.
Oh yeah, you really
Doesn't
do.
have the
yeah.
bigger mouthfeel like the stirred martini had,
Mm-hmm.
but you get a lot of those fruity flavors. They're kind of bright.
And I would say the stirred,
Orange and
the more you drink it, the more you get the dirty martini part. You get the olive juice, and it kind of comes out, and it's
Yeah.
full, and it makes you say things like,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
I don't know why I find that funny, but I do. So good stuff, man. I'm very impressed by this gin.
So I want to call out a few people here on the comments. Brian, Wiki Brian, Nick, Bruce. You guys need to send me a copy of you saying I had to take my gator to the vet
Totally. Yeah.
so we can feature you.
You can record. There's all kinds of
Oh,
apps. on the phone
Liliana
you
too.
can- Oh, I would love to have Liliana saying that.
I had to take my gator to the vet would be amazing.
If we can't get you to sing the Drinking News song, at least do that for us.
Just
so we
record
can
yourself
feature
saying
you.
it.
Yeah, all you have to do is say, I had to take my gator to the vet.
Yes.
Nice and easy. So, Ian, let's go ahead and try. I'm very curious about this stout. This is the Lil Jafforia Fat Elvis.
Session Stout. Beer brewed with peanut butter, cacao nibs, bananas with lactose.
So, in case anyone doesn't know, and there might be some of the younger generation that don't know, Elvis, especially during his Fat Elvis phase, was known for having a passion for two foods. One was burnt bacon, which, by the way, he's totally spot on there, because bacon is best when it's crispy and...
I used to fry bacon on the stove. Now I put it in the oven. My wife showed me the way to do this. You put it in the oven.
Crisp it up.
And you make it... And it's flat and crispy and amazing.
I love that. Love that. Elvis was known for loving burnt bacon, and he was known for loving peanut butter and banana sandwiches. So that's where the Fat Elvis comes from in this in this can title, because it's got peanut butter and banana in it. And what else? Cacao nibs?
Cacao nibs with lactose.
Okay, we got enough cups? You need some more?
I think we're going to need a couple cups.
Okay, we'll grab them.
Unless you want me to go ahead and pour this stout into your...
I don't know if that would be the best. This is... from time to time...
Do you think the dirty martini might interrupt the flavor slightly?
From time to time here on the show, we'll have our spirit, which we usually do second to last, and then whatever our biggest beer is, which is often a stout or a porter or something like that, and we'll kind of go back and forth to see how they influence each other. Not sure that's going to happen.
I don't
today.
think these are going to work that way. No,
I don't. I really don't think so. But I am excited about trying this beer.
This smells like almost like graham cracker too.
Oh, really?
Graham cracker and banana.
Oh, I'm getting banana smoothie here. That's what I'm getting on the nose. I got where you're coming from on the graham cracker, though.
Yeah, there's a little graham crackerish thing going on in there.
I'm digging it.
Oh man. And that, the chocolatey cacao.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of chocolate in here. So.
Oh, their choice for the nitro bubbles was perfect.
This is really good.
This is nitro bubbles.
It is total peanut butter and banana. Like, Fat Elvis is the perfect name for this beer.
Either that or it's just very low carbonation. It's hard to tell.
Now, I had a banana chocolate stout recently, and it was not nearly this good. They really pegged it here.
I am loving the bitter.
The bitter chocolate?
It's bitter chocolate, but it's almost more like a burnt crust. Slightly burnt crust, pie crust on the finish.
I love it.
The banana is pretty awesome.
It really is. This is just one of those things where, there's so many things that could have gone wrong with this beer, and none of them did.
Yeah, it's like the sugar in the crust just caramelized and then made the... Have you ever had a pie crust that has been slightly overdone, but just right?
Tiny, tiny bit, yes.
There's also... Let me tell you this, okay? Take a sip. And then do the retrohale where you breathe gently out of your nose.
Ooh.
And I'm going to tell you right now, slightly stale Nilla wafers. Which is the best way to have a Nilla wafer.
Which is the best Nilla wafers. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, wow. That's really good. I got to do that again.
This beer is fun.
That's a great way to say it, Ian. It is a fun beer.
It's a weird descriptor for a beer, but it's fun.
And let's face it, Fat Elvis was fun, too.
I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a bad choice, but I'm going to try my martini right now.
Okay, go for it. Let me know.
Oh.
That's not working, is it?
No, those are... That's like
complementary
orange
flavors.
That's like orange juice and toothpaste right there.
Oh, well,
like
that's bad. That's really bad. Okay.
What did I just do to my palate? That's okay. I have a little shiner back here to swill it out.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a good palate cleanser, I think.
Oh, yeah. I in a hey man, I think this milk is bad kind of way. You should try that, but it's not good. It's really really bad.
All right, I'm gonna give you a little list here while we're enjoying the Fat Elvis. This list, and we've been promising this for a couple of weeks, and I'm just now getting to it. This list is the brewers picking their 5 favorites for 2020. Game recognizes game is what the article says.
Nice.
Here we've asked 5 respected brewers for a favorite beer they drank this year while off the clock, the year being 2020. So we start with Matt Tarpey, who's the co-founder and head brewer at the Vale Brewing in Richmond, Virginia. I don't think I've had any beers from the Vale. Have
Nope,
you?
never had.
All right. Matt says, one of the many great beers I've had this year has to be Russian River Pliny for President. I've always been a huge fan of Pliny the Elder and Russian River, and this double dry hopped version was amazing. Super in-your-face hop aromatics with a lovely resiny finish. Notable mention, Allagash White is still a crusher, he says.
Allagash White's always good.
Yeah, that's always been good. So we don't get Russian River beers here in Texas, and I would just...
Makes me sad.
I'm now pleading to anyone who is in an area where you can get that, if you will send us Pliny the Elder, Pliny for President, any of those things, we will reciprocate with some awesome Texas
We'll
beers.
overcompensate.
Yeah, you'll be glad you did. That's all I'm saying. All right, Marcus Baskerville is the co-founder and head brewer at Weathered Souls Brewing in San Antonio. They made quite a bit of news this year.
I'm making everything you say into a blues song.
I like that. Perennial Mammon is by far my favorite stout, Marcus says. It's from Perennial Artisanal Ales. He says, drinking it this year was an experience I haven't forgotten. Aspects of baker's chocolate and dark chocolate fudge hit the palate, followed by mild bourbon booziness. This sounds like an Ian beer to me. Everything I love is right there. A burst of oak barrel, tight and warming bourbon, deep fudge, and slightly sweet toffee hiding in the middle. The viscosity and complexity of the beer are unmatched, and anytime I can get a pour of any iteration of this beer, I do so. Marcus Baskerville from San Antonio and Weathered Souls, praising Perennial Artisan Ales Maman, M-A-M-A-N. The Bierstadt Lager House in Denver, Colorado. The head brewer there is Ashley Carter. Ashley says, anybody who knows me well knows I tend to shy away from Keller Lager. I find a lot of it to be rough and generally unfinished tasting. Not this beer, though. Chris absolutely nailed it. He's talking about Green Bench Culture Chronicles Volume 2 Keller Pills.
I'm sorry. I need you to say that 4 more times.
I'll give you one more. Green Bench Culture with a K, Chronicles with a K, Volume 2, Keller with a K, Pills. He says it's unfiltered but still bright, dry and snappy with hops in the right spot, fine quality of bitterness that makes you want to take another drink, and it's not too grassy or harsh to distract from the subtle malt character. I love hearing brewmasters talk about other brewmasters' beers. Very cool. Chris Johnson is the founding brewer and co-owner of Green Bench Brewing in St. Petersburg, Florida. He is a fan of Odd Breed Wild Ales, Past and Future.
Oh, nice.
Past and Future, he says, has an intricate design rooted in complex intention by founder and brewer Matt Manthe. He begins with a simple base, consciously brewed for lasting effect, and after a rest in French oak puncheons on a mixed culture nearly a decade in the making, he creates a beer that weaves leather and hay, bright stone fruit, and delicate oak tannin with a perfectly refreshing and developed citrus acidity that makes you want another sip even before you've finished the first.
Holy Toledo.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound like I've always been in awe of the people who write the menu at like kind of upper scale restaurants, because they will make a slice of bread with a piece of beef on it sound amazing.
Yes.
The way they, it's artisanal bread cooked in, I don't even want to try to emulate them, but you know what I'm talking about. That's kind of what it sounded like when he was describing this beer to me. So finally, Tim Siasha, the co-founder and director of brewing and blending at Cellar Making Brewing in San Francisco, is a fan of Faction Brewing's Penske File Pale Ale. So it's about About a year ago, I took home a 4-pack of Penske. To this day, I still can't figure out how Roger Davis fits so much flavor and aroma into the slim 5.8% package of this West Coast Pale Ale.
That sounds awesome.
It is saturated. He says 1 sip of Penske File, and the Lapulin Pleasure center of your noggin goes haywire. I have that. The Lapulin Pleasure center of my brain, I have that, and it's an awesome thing to have it activated. It's really cool. Maybe that's why Faction does so well. So there are, and again, I wasn't expecting these to be beers we'd heard of. And that's what I kind of liked about the list, is it was a really, really cool list of things we've never tried, and I will be looking for and attempting to try if we possibly can. So
there's a few on that list that sound so delicious.
yeah, well, that's what's so amazing about the craft beer scene right now, and it will be so sad if some of these breweries have to shut down.
So one of the fun things I find when you meet the brewmeisters and the people that own breweries is they are so unpretentious about beers they like.
Oh yeah,
They are so unpretentious about other breweries, and they're so supportive about breweries around them. If you find 2 breweries and they're a mile apart, those guys support each other.
right, and they encourage each other.
Yes,
it's a really cool
amazing.
thing, and I love seeing that, and I love seeing how brewers have, kind of embraced each other during the pandemic and tried to help keep each other going. It's a good thing for all of us if most of it survives. It really is, especially for people who want to taste a beer like this Fat Elvis. That's
Fat
really,
Elvis
that's
is
really
so good.
outstanding, isn't it? It's just so, it's almost like a milkshake. It's so creamy and delicious. Really
In case
good
you're
stuff.
wondering, does not go well with olives.
I think we probably established that. So, all right, we are going to take a break. We'll be back for our final segment. Thank you guys for being here for such a landmark edition of the show. It's Smoking and Toasting, episode number 217, Ian. Can you believe it?
Nobody stopped us yet.
Oh, you just made somebody mad out there in comment land.
One day I'll look up comments. That'll be after we stop doing the show.
Right. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. We want to thank you guys for being here for the show this week. We certainly have had a good time. Not in a small way because of the martinis that Ian mixed. Holy cow, Ian! These were really good. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. They really
Well, I
were.
mean, that's why you carry martini kits wherever you go.
Apparently,
You never know when you're going to run into gin.
You never know when you're going to need them. Yeah.
Sometimes gin happens.
Apparently it did today, and we're all the richer for it. So, big recommendations for Fat Elvis, the Jafforia Fat Elvis.
Man.
And big recommendations for the Dry Hopped American Pilsner, and big recommendations, of course, for the Dripping Springs Artisanal Gin. Ian, I really like the website liquor.com. They have some great articles, some great stuff that I love to go back and read in my spare time.
They're fun.
If I'm not thirsty, I can just go to liquor.com and start reading, and then I get thirsty.
Yes.
They had an interesting article that I wanted to just pass along. 7 trends that defined how we drank in 2020 as we do our sort of obligatory
Ooh, I can't wait to hear
January
this.
look back. Yeah, these are not going to surprise you. The number 1 trend was goodbye to the bar stool. I said, remember what it felt like to sit at your favorite bar and on an actual stool and face a real live bartender and yeah, that pretty much went away.
And
for
see
most
actual people.
Yeah. It's a bummer. Number 2 on their list is actually an offshoot of that: the death of great bars.
Yeah.
The world's 50, a number of the world's 50 best contenders from lists that they have put out before on liquor.com have closed, and many thousands of workers and owners have been thrown into financial
How many of you are
uncertainty.
like me and you really enjoy going into bars that have been barely hanging on for the last 15 years?
I know. I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I want to do whatever I can to support them. And it's the same with breweries and distilleries, by the way. It really is. If you're going to drink, there's no point in giving the grocery store a portion of the proceeds if you can drive another couple of blocks and get your beers directly from the brewery. Just saying. Number 3 on the list is to-go drinks here to stay.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's been kind of cool about this is the ability to get to-go drinks, which in many states were not allowed before.
So it is a little weird, though, to get a bucket of beer and they're all open and then you take them home.
Yeah, it is a little weird.
That's a little bizarre.
Yeah, and also a little illegal.
Thanks, TABC.
Yeah, right. Also a little weird to be driving with that, hoping you don't get stopped.
Yeah,
Open
because
container.
there's also like open container laws, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think are, I'm not even going to get into that.
All this time, though, Louisiana's sitting there laughing, going, we did this years ago.
Yeah.
You guys
are
come on.
so far
You guys
behind.
are so far behind. Number 4, all hail the canned cocktail. Hard seltzer, they say in this article, was a practice run for America's full embrace of canned cocktails. Big brands, Jack Daniels, and a number of others have started putting out canned cocktails in earnest. So, how do you feel about that? Would you open a canned cocktail, pour it,
Well,
and drink it?
remember when we had canned cocktails on the show? We had, what brand was it? That was in the early, the before time. That was probably in the first,
You're right,
number
but we did-
70 or
We
60ish.
did do some canned cocktails, and they were quite good, actually.
Yeah, they were not bad. Some of the canned cocktails are okay. Some of them don't translate. But I will tell you that the hard seltzer. Now I don't have a lot of experience. I bought that multi-pack of the ones from Shiner. Mm-hmm. I figured, you know what? I love Shiner. Shiner's a great company. I want to invest in them anyway. If I'm going to try hard seltzers, might as well try those.
Right.
They had 4 flavors, and don't even ask me which ones are which. Okay, 2 of the flavors were actually quite drinkable, and 2 of them were almost not. Like they're just gross.
Yeah.
Like ew, bad taste in your mouth and everything. And I suspect that hard seltzers in general are kind of like that. Some people are going to like them, some people aren't. But canned cocktails, I think that's fine. My wife gets these ones called Slow and Low, and they're little old fashions in a can.
Yeah,
and they're actually not bad.
Awesome.
And so I think honestly, why not?
Yeah. All right. Simpler drinks for trying times is one of their points on this thing. They say this was not the year of the 9-ingredient cocktail.
No.
People were making cocktails at home. People like myself that are not necessarily that good at it, so the simpler the better. But they said even in bars kind of streamlined. Negronis, old fashions, margaritas, and highballs kind of emerged as easier drinks for them to make and handle without as large of a bar staff.
And some of my favorite cocktails have 2 ingredients: a whiskey and a And
yeah. Oh, I like that.
And
sometimes
sometimes just one ingredient, and it's not the glass.
Number 6 on the list is Quarantini. And the
Quarantini.
home bartender. They say here in mid-March the word Quarantini felt depraved, like a craven attempt to offload booze onto a panicked public. But as Americans started to realize that bars in many areas would be closed for months and that they'd be stuck at home for just as long, the Quarantini, in all of its varied forms, became a liquid salve for a bitter spring.
Did we make Quarantinis today?
I think we did. And they were delicious.
They were good.
Their last one is the 0% ABV. They talk about this. Yeah, what is that all about? But they do say, and I will agree with them, we've come a long way from O'Doul's, baby. And that's true. Like, there are some actually drinkable alcohol-free beers now. There really didn't used to be.
Hold on. Okay, so now I might be ignorant, and this might just be me. If you're drinking an alcohol-free beer, I figure you have a reason for it, which means, 1, you'd like to fit in socially at a bar and not look like, you're not drinking with your buddies. 2, you like to pee a lot. Or you're working out a kidney stone, or sometimes you just want to flush your system. I can't think of a third. Alcohol-free beers at home? I call that iced tea.
Right. I think that's a good point. You don't need alcohol-free beers at home so much.
I don't understand it. But maybe there's a fan base for it.
Well, we'll have to find out. I have often thought of us doing a zero alcohol blind taste test.
I mean, there's Caliber and
good.
O'Doul's. And
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them out there.
There's better ones out there than those.
There's Michelob Ultra. There's there's Bud Light. There's
Well, now, Ian, remember, when you really want your favorite beer, there's a Bud Light there.
There's a Bud Light there.
How freaking
Damn it!
disappointing.
That's what they left off of that was a damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Damn it. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a
Nick
part.
Cook says I have Dr. Pepper for that.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, folks, for being a part of the show today. This has been a fun one, largely due to Ian's traveling martini kit. And I want to thank you for being such a great bartender, sir. Chris Morris would be proud.
Cheers, y'all.
Have a great week, everybody. And as Ian says, cheers, y'all.
Bruce said, if you do a show of that.